friend from the National Educators Academy of the Philippines, Ana Sol Reyes.
And I am Lenny Alojado Nilius, Education Program Supervisor from the Schools Division of La Carlota City, Region 6. I am so happy to be a part of the Global Filipino webinar series. Hello to our fellow teachers joining us in FB Live and here in Zoom. I can see that all the regions are well represented. I am very sure that this afternoon will be more meaningful and more memorable, knowing that we are connected in one common cause to make our Filipino learners literate.
Welcome, Lens! At sobrang exciting ng ating session today dahil sa'yo. At dahil dyan, syempre, meron na naman tayong isang learning sessions na matutunghayan natin ngayong hapon. At nakakatapos na tayo ng isang module. Alam mo ba yun, Lens?
Yeah. At para sa mga kasama natin simula last year, maraming salamat at sinamahan nyo kami sa ating learning experience na ito. We are hopeful that our modules will be able to provide you input and continue your education services.
Okay. I agree with you, Lens. At para sa ating mga tagapanood sa ating Facebook Live at kasama namin dito ngayon sa Zoom, gusto namin malaman kung ano-ano ba yung mga topics or baka strategies or techniques na inyong nagamit o na-incorporate sa inyong mga online classes na syempre natutunan nyo mula dito sa Global Filipino Teachers Webinar Series. Baka naman po pwede pong makisuyo sa inyo na ilagay po ang mga topics, again, mga insights ninyo, mga lessons learned sa ating comment section or sa ating chat box para naman po lalong ma-inspire ang mga bagong nanonood na balikan ang mga past sessions.
Talagang ang dami pala nilang natutunan sa mga sessions ng Global Filipino Teachers Webinar Series. Sol. And for our newcomers, you can review the past modules through these Facebook pages. Okay, pwede po nating tingnan ito sa DepED Philippines, National Educators Academy of the Philippines, and Globe Bridging Community.
Ang daming pwede nilang tingnan, Lens. So, lahat ng topics sa Global Filipino Teachers Webinar Series ay connected sa Learning Delivery Modalities 2 course for teachers of the BELCP Capacity Building Program.
And the dissemination of this information along with videos and necessary materials are made possible through the partnership of the NEAP, Globe, and of course, Habi Education Lab and Teach for the Philippines.
Di ba nakakatuwa, Lens, no? Ang dami-daming mga partners natin to make sure that we'll still deliver quality education kahit na anong mangyari pa. At para sa ating DepEd teachers na nanonood sa atin ng live, please make sure that you register and take the pre-test found on our Facebook posts. At make sure na tama at latest na email address ninyo ang inyong i-register. Importante po yan. This will help us facilitate your certificates.
And immediately after the session, please answer our post-test survey. Dito matutulungan kaming magbahagi at mas engaged.
Okay, ulitin po natin yung gustong ibigay sa ating impormasyon ni Lens. Ang gusto po niyan sabihin, please answer our post-test survey. So aside from registration, kailangan kumpletuhin niyo po ang pagsagot ng ating post-test survey kasi matutulungan niyo kaming magbahagi ng mas effective at mas engaging na sessions para sa ating webinar series. And as we move to fully embrace blended learning modality and teaching virtually, it is important to equip ourselves with knowledge and techniques that are both relevant and effective. That's why DepED NEAP, in partnership with Globe, acknowledges this and moves to provide essential know-how on digital and blended learning, as well as functional literacy through this program. Hence, to know more about this program and how it will help our educators respond to the demands brought by the new learning environment, let's all watch this. Topics such as digital literacy, parental support on digital learning, responsible online behavior, the Global Filipino Teachers Webinar Series aims to empower teachers by promoting professional development and skill building, as well as providing relevant knowledge and support for individual mental and psychological well-being. Diba, Jo?
Yes, Miss Sol.
Ayan. So our past modules were intended to help us to be better teachers in this new normal. Ngayon naman, we have a 4-part module that focuses on the complex skill of reading. Sinimulan natin sa pag-define kung ano ba talaga ang reading skill at kung paano natin maituturo ito sa mga estudyante na nagsisimula pa lamang magbasa. Nagtungo din tayo sa pag-discuss ng wastong hanay ng pagtuturo ng mga tunog at alpabeto. Pero syempre, alam nating isang malaking challenge ang pagturo ng pagbabasa sa online setting. Jo, kahapon may nabasa akong isang article mula sa Wall Street Journal discussing about this. Okay, kaya naman ngayong hapon malalaman natin kung paano ba mag-design ng isang effective at engaging na reading program in this new normal.
At para po samahan tayo, muling nagbabalik ang ating guest lecturer from Teach for the Philippines at Alphabasa Reading Program, no other than Teacher Noel Sherry Pabiton Pansani. Let's all welcome you.
Salamat Ma'am Jo, Ma'am Sol at Ma'am Lenny. Kumusta po kayong lahat? Ako po muli si Teacher Noel. At ito na po, nandito na tayo sa huling yugto ng ating webinar series. This is our 4th day and our last day talking about learning to read. Kung nakasali po kayo mula nung nagsimula po tayo sa pagbuo ng foundation ng pre-reading skills. We talked about building the foundation for reading and then how to introduce sound-print correspondence. And then just last Wednesday, we talked about decoding, sight reading, and of course, developing reading fluency. Ngayong araw po, ipagsasama-sama na natin lahat. Titingnan natin how do all of these skills fit together to form a reading program in the new normal. Napakahirap po, no? Paano yung programa, tapos dadagdag pa natin na paano yan gagawin ngayong new normal na. So just like always, please give your full attention. Let's interact with each other. You can use the chat box if you're in Zoom or the comment section if you're on Facebook. And of course, we're also going to have some interaction slides. In fact, we'll begin with this one. Magbabalik-aral po tayo. Para po dun sa mga nakasali noong nakaraang Miyerkules, ano po yung mga naaalala ninyo mula dun sa mga talakayan natin? Meron po ba kayong mga keywords, key phrases na naaalala tungkol sa topics natin ng decoding and sight reading? If you would like to join on Slido so that the other teachers can also see your answers, you can join by opening another tab in your browser and then typing slido.com. The code is Q395, or you can scan the QR code right here. Hindi naman po kailangan mahabang sagot. Kung ano lang po yung naaalala ninyo. Pwedeng salita lang o parirala. Ano may mga keywords, key phrases natin. Mukhang meron na rin pong iba na sumasagot sa ating chat at comment section. Nakikita ko po yung rebus, sight reading, reading fluency. Once again, rebus is the use of symbols. And this is helpful for us when we're still learning, when we use a combination of sight words and pictures for children to be able to read and access more interesting materials. Okay, decoding and not memorizing, tama po. Kailangan po merong strong decoding skills before the children can expand their sight vocabulary, because if they rely too much on memorizing, then it will be difficult for them later on. Usually po, ito yung mga nakikita natin na parang nagbabasa naman, pero pagdating ng grade 2, grade 3, doon na po nahihirapan kasi tinatandaan lang pala nila, hindi talaga nila natutunan kung paano yung decoding. Okay, and then of course, we talked about the neural pathways. Ito po yung technical part ng ating lecture, kung saan tinignan natin kung paano nga ba nagaganap yung decoding sa utak natin. At nakita natin kung paanong talagang nakaangkas ang reading sa ating language skills or listening skills as well. More, of course, we have the phonemes. Babalikan po natin yan. And partner reading. Marami pong naglagay ng partner reading. This is an important strategy to build reading fluency. Okay. More? Okay, practice oral reading. That's right. So, when we're talking about fluency, we're talking about not just the speed, but also the accuracy and the intonation. The intonation or the expression, yung prosody natin. And that happens when we practice orally. Okay, mastery, repetition. We talked about the different memory systems, the working memory, sensory memory. Nakakatuwa naman po kung nagtitake down po kayo ng notes at tsaka kapag naalala niyo po yung mga keywords and key phrases. I hope that this review is helping refresh also what we've learned. And even for us adults, it's very important to repeat and go back to what we've learned. Kagaya po sa bata na napakahalaga sa kanila na pagpatitibayin nila yung mga skills nila through repetition. Okay. So thank you so much for writing down your ideas. You can still keep writing ideas as we move on with our presentation. So right now we're in session 4, the last session, and we're going to talk about planning our reading program in the new normal. 2 parts, paano ba yung programa, and then how do we translate this in the new normal. Of course, I won't be able to show you the full day by day na ano ba yung sample ng programa na isang buo. But we're going to cover a few things. So we're going to summarize the strategies for teaching reading. We're going to review and evaluate the different learning modalities. Kailangan po talaga natin bumalik dyan dahil new normal na nga at hindi talaga natin malalaktawan na kailangan natin tingnan ano ba yung learning modalities na meron tayo. And then hopefully we can together reimagine reading lessons delivered through online and offline means in the context of distance learning. So let's take a look at a sample program. If you can see here, we're just going to look at it in broad strokes. Kagaya po ng sinabi ko, mahirap naman po kung ang i-present ko ngayon ay yung araw-araw na anong gagawin natin. But for now, let's take a look first at how all the skills fit together. So, just like how we arranged this webinar series where we started from the foundation and then foundation and then the sound print correspondence and then decoding, leading to fluency, ganun din po yung isang reading program. We start with the basics, oral language, vocabulary building, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness. At kung gusto niyo po mabalikan kung ano yung mga skills na yan, hinimay-himay po natin ito sa ating first session. Para dun po sa mga ngayon palang sumali, pwede niyo pong balikan yung una nating session kung gusto ninyong malaman at talagang mahimay kung ano ba yung phonological awareness, ano ba yung phonemic awareness. And then of course, comprehension already starts even from this awareness stage because we can already develop the listening comprehension. Okay, and then most of the program will really center on this, the acquisition and reinforcement stage. Ito na po yung tuturo na natin yung letter-sound correspondence. And then as we teach the letters, the children can start decoding. Yun po yung translation from the grapheme to the phoneme, yung from print to sound. Or they can also start encoding, yung baliktad naman from sound to print. So decoding, we relate this with reading, and then encoding, we relate this with spelling. Dito na po nagsisimula habang natututunan nila yung mga letra. We also start with writing, yung mismong pagsulat nila gamit ng kamay nila. And then also building the sight vocabulary. And because they will be decoding and encoding already by this point, nandito na po pumapasok yung reading comprehension skills. Nasisimula na po natin kahit na maiikli pa lang yung binabasa nila, ay pwede na tayong magtanong ng mga comprehension questions. And then of course, the goal is to move from awareness, acquisition, reinforcement, all the way to fluency. So, from our second session, we talked about the letter-sound correspondence, yun po yung nasa acquisition and reinforcement stage. And then, on our third session, we talked about decoding and sight reading. So, you'll see that in the acquisition and reinforcement stage as well. And then the latter part, yung fluency, ito na pong pinakahuli. Towards the end of the reading program, ito na po yung talagang binibuild na natin yung mastery. We're working on mastery of letter-sound correspondence, and then there are more opportunities for independent reading, expanding the sight vocabulary, developing reading fluency through the strategies that we've talked about, oral reading, repeated reading, and then improving reading comprehension, and developing the writing skills and even the composition skills na pag-iisipan na ng bata, paano ko ba isusulat? So grammar comes in, punctuation comes in, and all of those things. Of course, I'm presenting it this way para lang po makita natin kung ano yung progression ng skills. Ito po yung para po ma-organize natin na dito tayo nagsisimula at kung paano nagkakaroon ng pag-build up sa skill development. Pero hindi naman po ibig sabihin na pag nasa acquisition and reinforcement stage na tayo ay hindi na natin gagawin ng oral language. Ang ibig sabihin lang po ay magkakaroon na ng introduction to new skills and we don't have to spend as much time on the previous skills. But we can always overlap. And in fact, it's good to overlap because children develop at different paces. So maganda rin po na all throughout, we still have some oral language exercises, we still have vocabulary building, we still have phonemic awareness, even until fluency. Paunti-unti na lang po. But the focus changes as we move along the program. Okay, so of course, this is all just about skills. Pero ano naman itsura nun? What are the activities that we can do for each stage? So if we are in the awareness stage, ang maganda pong gawin dyan talaga yung show and tell, di ba? Para po sa oral language development. And usually when we're in this stage, we're still breaking the ice, getting to know the children, and we really want to build that rapport with children. So this is a good time to let them talk. Kadalasan po ngayon sa mga online classes, nagmamadali po tayo na tapusin yung lesson natin, dahil maikli lang po yung oras natin kasama yung mga bata. Ang nakakalimutan po minsan, ito rin yung pagkakataon ng mga bata sana na sila naman yung makapagsalita at makausap yung mga kaklase nila. So, hopefully, what we can do is we can spend some time to let the children talk as well. If we don't have the opportunity to have online classes, pwede po kaya na mag-send yung mga magulang ng video na pwede ring panoorin ng mga classmate nila. Halimbawa po, if we have a closed group or a closed page and the different families can just take videos at home where the children are sharing about their interests and then they can all upload and everybody can watch. O kaya, kung wala po talagang digital na means, the only idea that I have on this is kung halimbawa po printed modules lang po talaga ang modality natin, pwede rin naman pong magbigay tayo ng mga prompts and then children can draw their ideas and dictate to their parents or their family members. And then the parents or family members can write down. So oral pa rin po ang nagaganap pero yung mga magulang ang nagsusulat para sa mga bata. Tapos, ito po yung pwede natin ipagsama-sama at kung magagawa natin na halimbawa, gawin natin itong libro na pwede natin ipadala sa mga bata, pwede nilang basahin at makikilala nila yung mga iba't ibang classmates din nila. And of course, we start with the circle of interest of the child. Ano po ba yung mga gusto nilang pag-usapan? Halimbawa, my family, or what is my favorite toy, or my home, what do I like to eat, what do I like to do. Yan po yung mga common topics na madalas maraming pwedeng sabihin ng isang bata. And then, of course, we should practice singing, storytelling. I think I've emphasized this over and over again, how important singing is and how important storytelling is in developing that language, the language skills. And then playing sound games like the phonemic and phonological awareness games that we talked about before, all happens here. Isang idea pa rin po, yung sa book exploration po. We want children to develop their book and print concepts. Ito po yung makilala nila kung anong tsura ng isang libro, paano ito binabasa, saan nagsisimula, saan natatapos, and then to build the directionality and the symbolic thinking that the print means something, and even to develop just the love for reading. Alam ko po meron mga magsasabi sa atin, paano yun? Wala namang mga libro yung bata. I don't know if any of the schools here have tried some sort of book borrowing system. Kung meron po kayong ganun sa paaralan ninyo, pakilagay po sa comments natin or sa chat para makita natin kung kamusta po kung sinubukan nyo na pwede bang humiram yung mga bata ng halimbawa 3 libro sa 2 linggo tapos isosoli nila. And then of course we quarantine the materials and then maybe send to the next child para po nagbabago naman din yung mga librong binabasa nila sa bahay. If you've done something like that, please go ahead and share in our comments and in our chat so that we can discuss it and see if it's a possibility. And then in this awareness stage po, dito rin po nagaganap yung initial assessment natin. We find out what is the reading level of the child. Ano po yung starting point natin? Kasi para sa bawat bata po, iba-iba yan. And then based on that, we set our goals with the families. And most importantly, we orient the parents, especially now, what is their role and responsibility in this whole program. When we move on to acquisition and reinforcement, this is where we introduce the sound and print, and then we have our guided practice and independent practice. Of course, ideally, we want to have audio and video when we introduce the sound and the print. Gusto natin nakikita nila yung itsura ng letra at naririnig nila yung mga tunog. So, paano naman kapag printed modules? Kasi alam ko po karamihan siguro sa atin, printed modules talaga. Paano na? Anong gagawin natin? Hindi nila nakikita nila yung letra pero hindi nila naririnig yung tunog. My advice or my tip is to show the letters together with an object or a picture of an object. So if we do that, we anchor the sound to an object that is familiar. Halimbawa po, nandito sa tabi ko ngayon, we have here letter M. Ito po, yung tunog na Tapos, nandito po yung ating larawan ng medyas. So, kapag natanggap po ito ng bata at nakita niya, tapos merong larawan ng medyas, mas meron pong connection na yung sa salitang medyas. Tapos, ang ginawa ko po dito, pinili ko po talaga yung mga larawan mula sa awit ng Alpabasa kasi po, yun yung mga naririnig nila dun sa kanta na kadugtong. Halimbawa, medyas, nandun po yun sa kanta, at saka yung aso. Kaya kapag nakita po nila yan, meron pong relationship yung sound with the object. Okay. You don't necessarily have to use the objects presented in awit ng Alpabasa. If you have your own phonics-based alphabet song, then maybe you can use those two. Or kung wala po talagang maybe a common object, a familiar object that can be the ground, the anchor for the child. Tapos, kung mapapansin niyo po, ang ginawa ko po dito ay mga cards. Baka po nagtataka kayo. Ang sinasabi ko printed module pero ang pinapakita ko ay card. Between having a printed module that's one and done, ibig sabihin po, sasagutan ng isang beses tapos na, ako po ang preference ko po talaga ay magkaroon ng mga DIY instructional materials for the children. Of course, this can also be printed out and then either the teacher can cut it or the child can cut it or the parents can cut it so that they can have the cards. And we don't have to make all of the cards. What do I mean by that? For example, we can give a model card like this and then we can have blank cards as well where the child will write the letters. Kasi di ba po kasama din naman po yun sa kailangan nilang gawin. Madalas sa module natin, hinihiling natin na yung bata ay magsusulat ng mga letra. So, imbis na po sa module nila gawin, bakit hindi na lang po sa instructional material na gagamitin din nila? So, titingnan po nila yung card, tapos kokopyahin nila at isusulat nila. At pagkatapos nun, ay meron na silang 3 card na merong letrang nun. Letrang M para dito. At hindi lang po doon. So, meron po sa capital letters natin, sa small letters. Paano naman po yung mga larawan? Diba po mahirap din maghanap ng mga larawan? Parang dagdag din po sa mga kailangan natin gawin. Pwede naman po na isang larawan lang ang ibibigay natin. And then we give blank cards for the child to fill in with other objects starting with that sound. Mag-iisip po siya, ano kaya yung mga iba't ibang bagay na nakikita ko sa paligid o naiisip ko na nagsisimula din sa tunog na Tapos siya na ang guguhit. Itutuloy niya yan. Halimbawa, mesa, And this can be one of the activities of the child, not to submit to the teacher, but to actually use at home. Magiging instructional materials po. Paano po magiging instructional materials? Itong mga picture cards po na ginagawa din ng bata, siya mismo ang gagawa, ay pwede rin niyang gamitin sa iba't ibang mga laro. Halimbawa, naalala niyo po yung palakpak pantig? Ngayon po, kapag ginawa niya ito, pwede na niyang paghalu-haluin, tapos bubunot siya ng card at yun din yung ipapalakpak pantig niya. Siya mismo ang gumawa, kaya kilala niya kung ano yung salita at pinagdaanan pa niya yung proseso ng pag-isip ng mga bagay na may tunog para dito sa halimbawa na ito. Tapos, halimbawa po, meron na tayong 2 letra na napakita. Halimbawa, meron na tayong tunog na at meron na rin tayong tunog na A. Tapos, gumawa na rin siya ng mga picture cards niya para sa 2 tunog na yon. So, meron tayo, halimbawa, musika, medyas, mangga, mesa, tapos ganun din po para sa tunog na A. Pwede po niya yung paghalu-haluin using the same material still. But this time we're going to explore a different skill. Paghahalu-haluin po niya yung mga ginawa niya at pwede na siya magkaroon ng sorting activity. Alin dito sa mga picture card na to ang nagsisimula sa tunog na at alin naman ang nagsisimula sa tunog na A. Halimbawa, apoy. Saan ko ilalagay? At syempre, hindi naman po niya kailangan ng pocket chart na katulad ng meron ako dito kasi pwede naman po sa mesa o kaya sa sahig kung saan po niya gustong mag-aral. Pwede niya po yung gawin. So, yun lang po yung isang halimbawa kung paano gagamitin itong mga picture cards. Pwede rin po gamitin para sa beginning sound, identifying the beginning sound. Pwede rin po sa rhyming. For example, bubunot siya ng picture card tapos mag-iisip siya ng katugma. Halimbawa, mangga. Ano kayang katugma ng mangga? Sangga? Bangga? Ano kaya? Parang ganun po. Using the same materials. And as you move through your program, the materials add up. Dumadami po yung magagamit niya and the games can be the same. So there's repetition in the games, but there's variation because you're adding more sounds, more words, more pictures, and it lessens the load of the teachers. Kasi hindi naman po tayo ang kailangan mag-provide ng lahat ng mga pictures at lahat ng mga letter cards. Pwede pong yung bata ang gumawa. At sa katunayan po, mas maganda na yung bata ang gumagawa. Minsan po, baka pinapagod lang natin yung sarili natin at napapangunahan natin yung mga bata, di ba po? Na imbis na sila yung gumawa, tayo na ang gumawa, meron pong missed learning opportunity kung kaya naman pala nila. At kadalasan po tinatanong din natin, di ba, sa mga seminar po na ganito na babanggit na paano ba natin pipiliin yung mga salita na talagang age-appropriate and meaningful to the child and the symbols or the drawings that make sense to the child. Alam niyo po yung madaling sagot? Yung bata ang pumili, yung bata ang mag-drawing. Because that will mean that those words and those pictures will be meaningful to them. Okay, so from here, napag-usapan na po natin yung sound and print. Paano naman po yung decoding? Paano na yung nagsisimula na silang magbasa at magsulat? Siyempre po yung mga larawan na ginuhit nila, hindi naman po necessarily na ito yung kaya nilang buuin gamit yung mga salita. These are not necessarily the decodable words. So how do we help them? I'm going to show you a very simple material that I made as an example. So ito lang po yan. Yung kanina po, index card lang po yun, 3x5 index card na hinati ko po. Yun lang po yung size ng mga cards na ginamit ko. Tapos ito po, 5x8 index card na tinupi ko po, tapos meron lang po akong gupit dito. Papakita ko po sa inyo kung paano. Halimbawa, ito. Kita niyo po yung salita. Ayan. So, pwedeng subukan ng bata basahin. Mais. Ayan, mais. Tapos, titingnan niya kung tama yung pagbasa niya. Ayan yung larawan ng mais. At ito po, kapag decoding, paano naman kapag encoding yung gusto nating gawin? Simple lang po. Yung larawan ang uunahin niya, mais. Tapos, kukunin niya yung mga letra na meron na siya dahil ginawa na niya yung mga letra at bubuuhin niya yung salitang mais. So, halimbawa, bubuuin niya dito sa kanyang lamesa. Lalagay natin yung mga letra para makita natin. Kumpleto ba ang aking mga letra? Halimbawa po, meron na siya nung lahat ng letra niya, nakakailanganin niya, tapos bubuuin na lang yan. Pagsusunod-sunod niya yung kanyang mga letra para mabuo ang salita na gusto niya. Tapos, paano niya malalaman kung tama yung sagot niya? Simple lang po, iikot lang niya. Ayan. Makikita na niya, titingnan niya, o tama ba yung nilagay ko? Tama. Ngayon, baka po isipin ninyo, di sisilipin na lang niya, babasahin na lang niya, kasi nakasulat naman dun eh. Kapag po ba binasa niya, wala na po bang pag-aaral na naganap? If the child looks at the answer and reads it, does learning not happen? Ang totoo po, nangyayari pa rin naman. Paminsan po kasi tayong mga guro, ayaw po natin yung magtatanong sa katabi o kaya titingnan yung mga notes, minsan 'di ba close notes o kaya bawal yung erasures or corrections. Pero pag tinignan po natin yung proseso ng pag-aaral, kahit po tayo as adults, kapag meron tayong hindi alam, 'di ba po i-research natin, hahanapin natin sa Google, magtatanong tayo sa mga kaibigan natin o kakilala natin na alam nila yung sagot. Yun po talaga yung process ng pag-aaral. And when the child becomes even more confident, then the child will begin to practice impulse control. Tatago na niya kasi sa palagay niya, kaya na niya, alam na niya. Tapos bubuuhin na niya yan. And so, we are enabling the child to be more independent with the learning through the materials that we are giving them. Meron pong self-correction. And then, as we move along with the words, we can also use these words in conjunction with sight words that we have to build sentences. Halimbawa po, yung bata, meron na siyang iba't ibang mga salita, meron na siyang iba't ibang mga sight words, pwede rin po niya yan gamitin para bumuo ng mga pangungusap. Halimbawa, nandito yung itim, tapos meron siya ng salitang ang, itim, ang, tapos mata. And for now, I put it with the picture. Nandyan po yung larawan in case the child needs to refer to the picture. But maybe eventually we can even flip this. Sabihin niya, Nay, alam ko na yan, hindi ko na kailangan tignan yung larawan. Tatakpan na natin. Tapos, pwede na niyang basahin ng letra lang. Yun. So, ito lang po yung mga ilang idea na paano natin gagawin kung ang means natin, ang ating delivery mode ay printed lang. Kasi alam ko po karamihan talaga yun yung tinatanong na, paano nga ba? Module lang anong gagawin natin? My tip is to let the kids let them participate in creating instructional materials that they can use over and over. They can use these repeatedly, and that will help them increase their skill and be more independent with the practice. Kagaya po ng nakasulat dito, from guided practice, moving towards independent practice. Kahit ano naman pong bagay, syempre kapag bago, posible pong merong kaunting resistance sa mga magulang o sa mga bata. Pero kapag ginawa na nilang routine, halimbawa araw-araw nilang gagawin 5 minutes lang or 10 minutes lang sa isang araw, meron silang routine. Anong gusto mong gawing game ngayong araw? Tapos susubukan nila. Eventually, pag nandun na tayo sa ikalawang linggo, ikatlong linggo, ikaapat na linggo, napakadali na lang yan. We just need to really orient the parents on what we are doing, and when they see the progress of the child, sila na mismo yung matutuwa na ipagpatuloy kung ano yung pag-aaral ng bata. Paano naman yung mga magulang na nagsasabi, kalat yan sa bahay, ang dami-daming material, kalat yan. Part of the orientation needs to be also about how to store the materials. Hindi lang naman po talagang nakalabas lahat ng gamit na to. Kailangan din po matutunan ng bata na iligpit. Kasi yung bata rin na magliligpit. Siyang maglalabas, siya mag-aayos, siya gagawa, siya magliligpit. Because the more that we let the child do things, the more learning happens. Okay, so for example, with the cards, kung meron pong simpleng shoebox lang na pwede paglagyan ng bata, okay na yon. O kaya kung gusto nating nakahiwalay yung mga letra, ipapaayos natin. O sige, lahat ng letra magkakasama, kumuha tayo ng goma, at ilalagay natin yung goma, tapos saka natin lalagay sa kahon. Ganun lang po. Para kasama din yon sa routine nila sa programa natin. And then of course, the worksheets can come in when it's formative assessment. Ito po yung mga kailangan nilang sagutan, tapos ibabalik para makita ng mga guro na, okay, nagagawa na ng bata ito. So in this acquisition and reinforcement stage, we do a lot of formative assessment, we do the progress reports, and it's very important to also have parent training seminars. Hindi lang po tayo titigil dun sa unang orientation, sigurado po kailangan pa ng karagdagang suporta ng mga magulang. And then as we move on to fluency, ito na yung makikita na natin na mas kayang gawin ng mga bata ng mag-isa yung iba't ibang mga gawain. So there's more independent reading, more independent writing. Maybe we can have timed reading if that's a possibility to build fluency. And then one idea is to also have reading recitals para po mainganyo yung bata na uulit-ulitin niya yung isang binabasa niya, kung kwento man to o tula. Tapos pwede pong i-video ng mga magulang at papanoorin ng mga kaklase din. Okay, and then you can also have writer's workshop where the children write their ideas about certain topics as well. At this stage, ito na po yung patapos na yung programa natin. This is where we have our final assessment, our final report to the parents and to the families, and then of course the recognition of the progress of the child and also the contributions of the parents. We always have to thank the parents because they are our partners in this. So yan po yung mga sample activities lang po ang posibleng maging itsura ng isang programa. Okay. If you want to read more examples of programs, I think I mentioned before already, Teacher Julie Aparato's book, I Can Finally Read. Ito po yung marungko naman ang ginawa niya at meron po siya ditong pinakita na ano po yung levels sa kanyang reading program, paano niya kinlassify yung kanyang levels. Tapos nagpakita rin po siya ng sample niya ng isang linggo, ano itsura, ano yung sample lesson plan. Kung gusto niyo po yun, pwede niyo pong hanapin itong librong to. And we also have here, I included a resource, Expanding Access to Early Childhood Development Using Interactive Audio Instruction. So this one is available online. Pwede niyo po i-search, merong downloadable PDF po yan. And this one, it's very interesting because this was released in 2015, pero tungkol na po siya sa interactive audio instruction. So ito po yung distance learning with case studies in Honduras, Paraguay, Zanzibar, Nepal, and Malawi. Kung paano nila ginagawa yung programa na through audio instruction. And it talks about the different facets, not just of the curriculum, but also the planning phase and the development phase for the audios, and even the sample script of what an audio instruction can look like. So, hindi ko po alam kung marami bang gumagamit ng audio instruction dito. Siguro po ngayon natin alamin. Kung meron po kayong ginagamit dito ng mga learning delivery modalities, maybe you can join our poll. You can join at slido.com. The code is Q395 and you can scan the QR code right here. Alin po yung ginagamit ng paaralan ninyo? Online digital po ba? Offline digital? Printed modular? TV-based instruction? Radio-based instruction? Or if you have others, you can also click. Wow! Una-una, ang printed modular learning. Tingnan pa po natin. Baka meron pang iba na gumagamit ng combinations. If you are using combinations, you can choose more than one. You can submit more than one answer so we can see. Wow, so some of you are using radio-based instruction. That's 20% in radio-based instruction for now. Online digital, offline digital. What about TV-based? Meron po tayong DepEd TV. Meron po bang gumagamit ng TV-based din? Okay, so a lot of offline digital learning. I understand yung bandwidth po ay problema kasi. Kaya kahit po may gadget, yung mga magulang, minsan yung data access naman at yung availability and affordability of the data ang nagiging problema natin. Okay, so online digital learning, radio-based. Okay, so looking at this, we can already see that a lot of you are still using the printed modular learning. Kaya po talaga siguro nandito kayo para malaman ninyo paano nga ba magtuturo ng pagbabasa kung modules ang pinapakita natin. Kagaya nga po ng sinabi ko kanina, when it's about teaching reading, ideally we should have audio and video. But I know that we have a lot of limitations. We are facing so many challenges as teachers. Okay, so very interesting. Printed modular learning, and then it looks like online digital learning is coming in second, and then offline and radio-based around the same. Sige, kung gusto niyo po, pwede pa rin po kayo sumagot para makita rin natin at ma-assess natin kung ano po yung sitwasyon sa iba't ibang lugar, iba't ibang rehiyon natin. You can keep answering and you can keep adding to the poll if you haven't yet. And of course, if you have combinations, kasi meron din po tayong mga blended learning, you can check multiple answers. Okay. Ito po, nanggaling po sa DepEd, alam na po natin to, meron pong iba't iba talagang advantage at disadvantage ang bawat learning modality na meron tayo. And in fact, later we'll take a look at the different aspects of a reading program and we'll try to see how that will translate with the different learning modalities, and we'll try to reflect on how the different aspects of a reading program can be adapted in the new normal. So for now, we'll just take a quick break. Let me turn you over to our host.
Thank you very much, Teacher Noel. Can I be heard? Right now, we are taking a short health break to help all of you check your notes, mag-stretch, go on a nature break, even quickly share this webinar to your colleagues, or just allow your mind to rest for 5 minutes. We'll be resuming our lecture in a short while. And we're back here. Let's all welcome back our presenter from Teach for the Philippines, Teacher Noel.
Thank you, Ms. Sol and Ms. Lenny. Once again, we are wrapping up our webinar series on learning to read. We've been talking about what a reading program can look like, and now we're going to really explore and reflect on what it will look like in the new normal. So more emphasis naman po dun sa new normal. Tingnan po natin. So when we teach in the new normal, there are so many things that we need to consider. Ito po yung titingnan natin. We have to be smart in the way that we use the different learning delivery modalities. Sinasabi nga po nila, di ba, hindi lang po work hard, but we also work smart. And the first one is to really think about and consider what are the skills, knowledge, and attitudes that we want the children to learn. Ano po ba yung learning goals natin? At aling delivery modalities po ba yung kayang sumagot doon sa learning goals na yun? Tingnan po natin. Dun po sa mga pinag-usapan na natin sa webinar series na to, oral language, phonological awareness, articulation, print awareness, sound print association, decoding, and sight reading. This is the ideal setup. Audio can satisfy the first three, and then video, of course, since we have both the audio and the text in the video, kaya naman po lahat ng skills. Pero pagdating po sa text, karamihan po yung mga latter skills na although we have some strategies like the ones I showed you earlier that can help, we really want to still support with audio and video if possible. Kahit po tawag, audio calls, video calls, if possible, that would really be helpful for the parents. But the other thing is, if we don't have access to audio and video, ang pwede rin po natin gawin ay yung format ng text natin ay hindi para sa bata, hindi para basahin ng bata, pero para basahin ng mga magulang. It's more of an instructional guide, but of course, parents will need more support on how to follow. Okay. And the other thing is, we can also make the text more or the printed modules more pictorial. So we'll rely more on pictures rather than text at the early stages kung wala po tayong access sa audio or video. What else? Letter M po, materials and resources. So we have to ask ourselves, do the families have the devices, bandwidth, materials needed? Or kaya po ba nating iplano yung ating mga activity, ang ating mga lesson plan na ginagamit lang nila yung common household items, yung mga mahahanap natin sa kahit saang lugar, o kaya kung ano lang po yung nandoon, pwedeng iba-iba yung gamitin nila. Also, where can we source additional materials? Or maybe we can think, what materials can we provide and what materials can they create? Just like what I demoed earlier. And then, we have to be realistic when it comes to materials and resources kasi alam naman po natin yan lahat. Talagang ito po yung limitation. So sometimes you really just have to adjust with what's available while also trying to look for other ways to source the materials. Meron po ba tayong pwedeng itap na mga organizations or companies who can help us, who can help our schools? Right now, I see a lot of partnerships between schools and different organizations and different companies. So maybe we can all work together to provide the materials and resources that the Filipino children need. Again, be resourceful, plan lessons around everyday household items, get the students involved in preparing the instructional materials that they will use, and teach games and activities that children can do over and over using the same materials or using variations of the same materials. Kaya po natin talagang ine-emphasize ito kasi mas budget-friendly din po. Kesa yung paulit-ulit, pabago-bago yung ginagamit nila, bakit hindi na lang yung something more durable that they can really keep and they can use and even their siblings can use later on. What else? What about assessment and monitoring? Isa pa po itong kailangan natin consider pag pinag-uusapan natin yung macro perspective of a program, of a teaching program or a reading program. How can we track the learner's progress? Ito po yung mga tanong natin eh. Are there opportunities for formative assessment within the given modality? Halimbawa po, kung printed modules, kailangan nilang ibalik yung mga worksheet na binigay para matingnan natin. Kung video naman po, ang maganda dito kapag live, then there's immediate feedback for us. And so part of this is also, can we do synchronous or asynchronous assessment? Yung timing po, timing of interaction. So, I would like to find out first if you implement synchronous, asynchronous assessment, both or maybe neither. Pag sinasabi po nating synchronous, ito yung live. Asynchronous would be through submissions. Hindi lang po worksheets, pero pwede rin magsasabit sila ng videos, magsasabit sila ng pictures. It's more of a portfolio type. If we're talking about synchronous, then we're talking about possibly video assessment, oral assessment. It can be through live chat also, or live text messaging. So it looks like a lot of the teachers are using both, and some are only using asynchronous. Pero mukhang walang synchronous lang. At buti naman na walang nagsasabing hindi sila gumagawa ng assessment. Okay. So we have mostly both, and then second to that is asynchronous, it looks like. So when we talk about synchronous and asynchronous interactions, there are of course pros and cons. Yung synchronous kasi ito yung scheduled. Tapos kapag scheduled siya, paminsan hindi siya nag-fit dun sa schedule ng pamilya. We also have to consider the parents are working, maybe hindi magagawa ng sabay-sabay o magkakapatid sila, hindi naman nila pwedeng gamitin yung parehong device ng magkakasabay-sabay, o kaya yung internet capacity nila hindi kakayanin kung nagkakasabay yung mga klase ng magkakapatid. At saka yung trabaho pa ng mga magulang kung kailangan nila ng internet para doon. So that's one of the cons of the synchronous learning. It's scheduled. But we have real-time feedback when it comes to synchronous learning. And what's nice about that is we can be more flexible with our assessments, and we can be more flexible with our teaching or our instruction. Kasi kapag nakikita na natin na, ay, hindi pa pala kaya ng bata dito, atras tayo, di ba? Sanay na po tayo dito kapag nasa classroom na kahit may lesson plan tayo, pag nakikita natin na, ay, hindi, kailangan kong iibahin natin kahit on the spot. So with synchronous learning, we can do that, but with asynchronous learning, it's very difficult because we prepare everything beforehand. There's delayed feedback. And so when we change it up, when we change the module, or when we change the pace, dun pa po sa next batch. Yun po yung kahirapan. The good thing with the synchronous learning is there's individual pacing. Halimbawa po, yung bata naman, kailangan matutunan din nila na sila yung families, kailangan din po na makapag-decide kung anong oras nila gagawin, gaano kadalas nila magagawa, at gaano kabilis nila matatapos ang isang module. With synchronous, we have the live interaction, which is wonderful. Just like all of you here today who are joining us live, you can really tell the difference between being here and being able to interact and share your answers, and join the chat and join the comments, versus the synchronous learning, which on the one hand, hindi na po sila makakasali talaga dun sa discussion, but they can also repeat and review. So yun naman po yung positive doon, na nakikita natin kahit nawala sila sa live interaction, pwede nilang balik-balikan. Pwede nilang ihinto kapag kailangan nilang umalis, tapos pwede nilang ituloy, o kapag meron silang gustong ulitin, pwede nilang pause, replay. So there's also an advantage there. The good thing with something like this webinar series that we have, is it is actually both synchronous and asynchronous, because right now we're doing it live, but later on you can still go back. So for those who are joining us for the first time, I really encourage you. I hope this webinar series inspires you to really go back and look at the other webinar series that we have already, and the other lectures that we've had, para po talagang manamnam natin yung mga talakayan dito. Okay. So, just to review, how to work smart, diba po? Kailangan natin i-consider skills, knowledge, and attitudes, materials and resources, assessment and monitoring. The last two are very important as well, relationships and roles, and then training and support. What do I mean by relationships and roles? Mahirap po madalas kapag kunwari hindi naman po available yung synchronous learning. Yung pag-build ng relationship. How am I building relationship with my students and their families? And the second one is really the worry that I had at the start. How am I creating opportunities for my students to build friendships? Alam po ba nilang meron silang mga classmates? Nakakausap din po ba nila? O wala talaga, parang very isolated po yung feeling? Of course, even if this isn't just about reading anymore. Gusto ko lang po talagang i-emphasize na we really have to safeguard the social-emotional well-being of the children. We want them to not just feel safe and be supported, but also have the opportunity to socialize with other people, to increase their social circle and explore friendships, get to know their peers as well. So maganda po para dun sa mga batang merong kapatid o merong pinsan na kasama sa bahay, may kalaro. Pero iisipin din po natin, paano yung mga wala? Yung mga naiiwan ng mga magulang, tapos mga walang kapatid, wala masyadong kasama sa bahay na kaedad nila, na pwede nilang kausapin. It also has an impact on the reading skills, on the oral language development skills. As we've said, having conversations with children promotes oral language development. And so if the child doesn't have anybody to talk to, mahirap po yun. Nagiging factor din po siya. The conversations can be between teachers and students, or within the family also, of course, and then even between classmates if it's possible, whether it's via audio conferencing, video conferencing, or phone call, video call, o kung hindi talaga, pwede silang magsulat. Diba? Lalo na po kapag nandun na tayo sa mga fluency stages, maybe they can make cards for their classmates, and then we'll figure out paano kaya, meron bang opportunities for us to really create those interactions, create spaces for interactions. Then like what we've mentioned earlier, paired or partner reading activities also help build fluency. So we want to encourage children not just to be interacting with devices all the time. Nandun pa rin po kailangan talaga yung social interactions. And those social interactions help so much with learning. Okay. Last is, of course, training and support. In what areas do the parents or guardians need training and support, and how can we really support them? Halimbawa po, dun sa mga gumagamit ng digital learning, meron po nagsabi na online or offline digital learning ang ginagawa nila. Meron po ba tayong training ng technical know-how para sa mga magulang? Kasi kadalasan po, at ito na po yung experience ko din po sa Alpabasa bilang tech support, marami po talaga mga magulang na nalilito, paano ba gamitin? O hindi, nalalock-out ako, hindi ako makalogin, hindi ko maintindihan kung ano nangyayari. How can we provide that kind of support? Kailangan po ba natin ng walkthrough ng mga devices na to? And like I've said earlier, it's not just about the first orientation. Kasi kapag ginagamit na ng mga magulang, paminsan doon pa lang lumalabas yung mga tanong nila, at doon pa lang nila kailangan talaga ng suporta. So, let's really give the training and support in addition to the orientations that we are giving the parents. So, another tip or advice for parents maybe is to create a conducive learning environment at home, or to find a space for learning where the children can go and they can set up para alam po nila na kapag nandun na sila sa area na yun, mag-aaral na sila at nandun yung mga materials nila. And then like I've said, yung even teaching children to pack away and building the routine. So all of these things that maybe are common sense for us teachers, maybe some parents need support in these areas also. So, hindi lang po yung technical, pero pati po yung mga bagay na kagaya ng training sa pag-build ng routine, training sa pag-create ng learning environment, how to motivate the child. Baka po meron sila mga tanong, anong gagawin ko kapag may tantrum yung anak ko, ayaw niya mag-aral? Maybe those are things that we can support them with. So, let's let the parents ask questions. Hindi lang na tayo mag-iisip ng ano yung tuturo sa kanila, but let's hear out what are the questions of the parents, and also what are the questions of the students. Okay, so those are the 5 things. Ito po yung working smart in the new normal. Let's think about the skills, knowledge, and attitudes. Ano yung available materials and resources? How can we provide assessment? How can we monitor? Kung halimbawa po, videos na kailangan nila panoorin, baka po pwede nating i-support with, for example, texts. Tanungin natin na, ano yung pamagat ng binasa nating libro ngayong araw? Tapos makikita natin na, okay, sinusundan nila kasi alam nila kung ano yung sagot. So, simple things lang. Just checking in with the parents and finding out how they are, building relationships, and identifying clear roles for everybody. And then, of course, providing the training and support. So this is where I'm going to end the webinar series. And again, I really ask you to reflect on your key takeaways, not just from this particular webinar, but from the whole series. Meron po ba kayong napulot? Meron po ba kayong siguro pwede ninyong subukan? Let's try to be open-minded and explore the possibilities also. Alam ko po, baka meron na rin po tayong mga kinasanayan o baka mahirap po sa ngayon. We want to go back to something that feels safe for us. And that makes sense. But let's also try and explore things that we can do to create a reading program that will be effective for children and effective for the parents to be able to follow through at home. Yun lang po ang gusto ko sabihin. If you want to share your ideas or ask questions, you can join us at slido.com. The code is Q395. You can scan the QR code right here so that we can see your ideas and we can go through your questions as well. So that's it. Let me turn you over to our host.
Thank you very much, Teacher Noel. During your presentation, there were lots of interesting points raised by our educators here in Zoom and in our FB Live. So we would like to focus first to the questions from Zoom. But before that, may I read first some of the insights of our participants here in Zoom. So according to Ma'am Juby Montoya, he shared his thoughts on that teaching self-directed, responsible pupil student for the new normal setup parents' role on the learning of learners must be stipulated on the school's policy, students' handbook. And according to Sir Juben Bacolor Cervantes, Ma'am Yolanda Depoleo, we are conducting campaigns in shifting from PMDL to digital. Then also, according to Ma'am Juby Montoya, assessment is rule creates a ladder whether we teachers go the next steps or to backwards just to be of pro students development. And from Jerwin Adora, we consider time availability of the parents or the one who can help them assist to learn and the level of their abilities. Then additional na naman po from Ma'am Juby Montoya, very active si Ma'am. Go on training, so significant, trained holistically, fit into the new normal. Then, another pa po, sa kanya kay Sir Jerry Adora, agree socialization with small groups and learning. With small groups and learning, partners help them be able to become sociable, and fun learning leads to effective learning. Then, may nagbigay po ng takes-away strategies in the new normal. Smart. Yun po ang kanyang sagot from Ana Lu Anon. Then, so yun po yung mga insights na naibigay po ng ating mga participants here in Zoom. So, meron pong isang nagtanong dito kanina. Galing po kay Sir Juven Bagolor Cervantes. Are there any kind of offline platforms online which facilitate reading activities to our learners with the teacher? Yan po, ma'am.
As of now, I'm not familiar with a lot of offline platforms. Yung lang pong nabanggit ko noon na yung Super Reader Squad, made by the Teach for the Philippines Fellows and Alumni. That's a downloadable booklet. Pero yung pong downloadable videos or downloadable audio, I'm not so sure if we have. I think Globe also has from their website. Maybe we can share that later on. Na pwede pong i-download na videos. But for teaching reading, siguro po kasi yung ngayon pong nangyayari, nabigla rin po tayo lahat. So we've had to really pivot, and of course, it costs a lot to produce the lessons. So kaya po kadalasan online po talaga yung mga meron na available. But hopefully in the future, and if anybody knows, marami po tayong participants, so maybe somebody here knows of offline resources that we can share. This is of course a discussion, so anybody can jump in and answer as well.
Ma'am Noel,
Yes.
maganda yung sinabi mo kanina na kinakailangan talaga merong isang systematic, efficient reading program. Sige, sa tingin ko parang hindi lang for individual teachers but for the entire school.
Yeah.
Parang mas maging collective yung galawan. Hindi, parang syempre there are some teachers who will be having some difficulties. Sana other teachers can also help.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Saka magkaroon ng continuity yung ginagawa natin mula sa kinder, grade 1, grade 2.
Okay. Teacher Noel, you were able to discuss about interaction, socialization among our readers or among our learners. Medyo ang hirap nun, medyo okay kapag online. At least nakikita mo that they are interacting. Pero medyo difficult ito lalo kapag modules ang ginagamit or they're utilizing TV or radio. Ano kaya mas matutulungan natin yung mga parents to, in a way, wag matakot, na to explore the strategies that you're able to give in terms of learning, reading sa early stage?
Pagdating po dun sa socialization, share ko lang po kasi nung nag-online class po ako, kinakabahan po ako nung una na magkakaroon ba ako ng relationship? Will I be able to build a relationship with my students?
Mm-mm.
And I was really happily surprised. After a few sessions, meron na pong bata na nagising sa siesta niya, tapos sinabi niya sa nanay niya, pwede ba pumunta si Teacher Noel dito sa bahay? O kaya parang hinahanap na. So there is a great chance to build a relationship when it's live interaction.
Mm-mm.
Whether it's online or usually po online talaga, live interaction, whether it's in video format or in chat. Pero pagdating po dun sa printed modules, paano natin ma-emphasize or paano natin ma-encourage yung socialization? I think one way to do it is to kind of personalize also the modules that we are giving to our students. And by that, I don't mean that we have to make it handwritten or anything like that, but maybe we can personalize it by having a letter from the teacher to the child.
Mm-mm.
Tapos nagpapakilala tayo na ako si teacher ganyan, ito yung picture ko, para kilala mo ako. And then eventually, as children read and write and submit their works, maybe we can include that also in the modules that we are giving to other students, so that we're introducing children, and then parang mahahanap na nila na ito yung kaklase ko, ito yung pangalan niya. Diba? Nakakatuwa rin kasi kung kahit parang balik tayo dun sa mga pen pal na mga panahon. If we can do that, eventually when the children learn to write, maybe they can write to each other.
Correct.
Yeah.
Going back to basics, no? Okay. Teacher Noel, very surprising yung sinabi mo kanina na wag masyadong magpakahirap yung mga teachers natin. Parang wag ilagay lahat ng burden sa atin. Baka merong mga pagkakataon, even sa mga small kids, kinder, diba, to grade 3 ang pinag-uusapan natin, that they will be also given responsibilities to learn on their own. Would you like to explain this further?
Sure. So a lot of times as teachers, we try to take on the burden. Tayo na nag-iisip ng lahat, tayo gumagawa ng materials. But of course, sometimes children can actually do those things and they're missing out on learning opportunities when we do things for them. So maybe what we can do is just to set it up para maumpisahan lang. Tapos sila na yung tutuloy at sila na yung gagawa. And as teachers, yung siguro kailangan lang natin i-change sa ating mindset ay, of course, the products of the children will not be perfect. And they're not meant to be perfect, but they're beautiful because the children need them. And they're full of learning. So yun yung mahalaga. Hindi na kailangan yung picture card niya ay napakaganda at naiintindihan mo kung ano yung drawing niya. Pwedeng mga linya lang yan, pero kung alam niya kung ano yan, that's enough because the child can learn from that.
Okay. Tapos sinabi mo rin kanina na let's not always look at erasing, looking at the answers na negative. Diba syempre sa atin parang, no looking at your notes, diba? No erasures, minsan nga no double strokes dahil mga ganon. Tapos very surprising sinabi mo kanina, hindi, okay lang yun. Ano yung mo doon? Bakit mo sinabi yun? Kaya medyo, breakthrough.
For me, we have to trust also the learning process. Kasi parang kung iisipin mo, paminsan nagiging demanding tayo sa mga bata. Na kung tayo naman bilang adult, bilang nakakatanda, ito rin naman yung mga bagay na ginagawa natin. Ganito tayo natututo. So, I think it's always good to go back to how does learning happen? How does the child learn? And if the child is learning from talking to the classmates, from looking at the notes, from erasing and correcting, then it should be okay. Siguro po kung talagang ginagawa lang natin to for the final assessment, kasi gusto na natin malaman ano na talaga yung pinaka-final na progress ng bata, then okay. But if we're doing this all throughout, then we're teaching children that they should be afraid of making mistakes. And I think that's one thing that we really have to change because it's only in making mistakes that we learn. Even us, diba po? Ayun.
Umaapaw sa insights and learnings yung ating Zoom comment box, yung chat box natin. Jo, would you like to share those insights?
Yes, meron po.
Nakakatuwa eh.
Madami talaga mga insights and ideas na i-share ng ating mga participants dito sa Zoom. So like Ma'am Donna Vera, if I'm not mistaken, reading is also a continuous learning both for learners, teachers, and parents. Parents also. Then, nagpapa-thank you rin po siya na this webinar helps her a lot as teacher and also as parents. Thank you daw po for sharing your expertise. Then, from Sir Fran Villarreal, so dito naman po yung po kanyang takeaways is the commitment, dedication, and embracing change in this time of pandemic just to make sure our children are not left behind. Then, also din po, start with motivating parents to be a major part in the reading progress of their child. So, yun po yung share naman po from, nakalagay lang po M. And then, marami rin pong nagpapasalamat talaga for sharing your expertise, ma'am, your wisdom sa ating mga educators. Talaga daw pong it is really a help, a big help to them. Yung po mga tips na binigay ninyo and strategies in teaching for learners, especially nga po ngayon pong set up natin sa education ngayon ng ating new normal. How about you, Miss Sol, sa FB natin?
Sa ano pa rin to, Jo, sa Zoom, from Jerwin Adora, he said that we need to be sensitive for our learners' need, and that alone is a call for every teacher to respond with sympathy as we equate the need to put attention to our learners' needs. Maganda, no? Meron pa ba tayong question dyan, Jo, from Zoom, or you're able to give all the questions na? Okay.
Additional insights lang po. Halos same naman po yung mga binabanggit nila. So, thank you so much po sa pagbibigay ng inyong insights and pag-share ng inyong ideas.
Okay.
Thank you so much po.
Thank you.
Ako meron pa. Pwede ba magpahabol pa, Ma'am Noel, ng question? Kanina kasi, di ba, even when I look at the comments from our teachers, pinakita doon, sinasabi nila how important it is for students really to grab yung talagang totoong mga libro. Diba? Yung magkaroon talaga sila ng experience sa pagbabasa na talagang from actual books. I'm just wondering how, yun nga medyo may kakulangan tayo talaga sa mga resources natin. Although, of course, we're doing everything to give to the learners what they're supposed to have. Pero parang iniisip ko lang, meron kasing mga communities, di ba, Jo, na may mga public libraries. Pero pwede siguro rin natin i-maximize yung mga ganun, or baka mamaya may mga kapitbahay tayo na ang dami mga magazines, ang dami mga libro. Appropriate, syempre, para sa mga bata, Ma'am Noel?
Yes, of course. Gaya po nung tinatanong ko po sa ating mga participants, sana po kung meron pong naka-experience na nung book borrowing na system sa kanilang mga paaralan, o kung meron po kayong public library na halimbawa po pwedeng mag-check out yung mga bata ng kunwari 3 libro na pwede nilang gamitin, tapos ibabalik nila at i-quarantine po, tapos ibang bata naman ang pwedeng gumamit. Pwede po sila magpalit ng mga libro. Maybe we can explore all of those options because we want children to have access to the resources, but we can't provide each child with a whole library. Wala rin po silang paglalagyan sa bahay. So yung pong borrowing po, kung possible.
Okay. Tapos you also highlighted the importance of talagang including our parents and guardians or those who stay with the children to also be trained and to be capacitated, 'di ba? To teach yung mga strategies po na ibinigay mo sa amin. Mahirap gawin, pero any suggestions how we can start doing this?
Ang totoo po yan, sa simula po mahirap. Like in anything that we do, at the start there will be struggle, pero kapag nasimulan nyo na at itutuloy na lang ng mga magulang yung ginagawa na nila, it will get easier for them. So I think the main thing is not to give up. Just keep trying po, and also to work with your co-teachers, to work as a whole school and as a whole community in really building yung parent development po, yung parent training.
Okay. Based experience ko, sa nakikita ko sa mismong kapatid ko na nagtuturo sa kanyang anak. Parang dati, parang pag may sinabi yung mga magulang, sasabihin ng mga bata, lalo yung mga kids, hindi ikaw si teacher. Hindi kita pakikinggan dahil hindi ikaw ang teacher ko. Pero nga, tingin ko unti-unti, even our kids are already, in a way, siguro sa una, parang medyo naninibago sila. But I think they're now enjoying the company of their parents, no? While they are learning.
Yes, that's true. Paminsan naman po yung mga bata, gusto lang nila makasama yung mga magulang nila. And it's already motivating for them. Even if yung gagawin ay mag-aaral,
correct.
because they're with their parents, they get to spend time with their loved ones. Nandun po yung motivation na, sige, gusto ko tong gawin.
Okay. Ma'am Noel, ang nakakatuwa yung sinabi ni Sir Elron Carl. Thank you for this webinar. It is indeed of a great help, not only to us teachers and also to the parents and learners. Imagine mo, no, kung may mga kinder, grade 1 na nakikinig sa atin, nakakatuwa. Tapos with their parents, ano. Tapos meron siyang ginawang, ano ba tawag dito? Yung GLOBE. Nilagyan niya, acrostic ba tawag doon? Nilagyan niya ng meaning, o diba?
Wow.
G stands for guardians and parents, o diba? L, leading their child's future. Diba nakakatuwa, no? With O, optimism on facing. B, big challenges towards. E, embracing the changes in teaching and reading. O, diba? May
Very
may pag-globe. Nakakatuwa.
Nakakatuwa naman.
Oo. I can imagine na yung klase ng challenges na talagang kinakaharap ng ating mga teachers. And now, of course, we're sharing this responsibility with our parents. And also, di ba, mga kapatid, even yung mga kapatid ngayon, para everybody's into talagang giving their part in order to make this education work kahit na ang hirap-hirap niya. So, paano ba? Yes, Ms. Well.
Pwede ko pang idagdag lang. Siguro po ang isang maganda rin ay, ang magandang idea rin po ay gumawa rin ng mga webinar series na para sa mga magulang.
Okay.
At para sa mga family members po. Talagang catered to them, that they can watch, and this can be a shared resource among teachers to help with different aspects of learning. Kagaya nga po nung sinasabi natin, setting up a routine, o kaya kung paano ba gawin ang activity na to. Para po, meron na rin tayong resource base. So sana po yung mga teachers na nandito, we can keep the discussion going. I know this is the last day of our webinar series on learning to read, but I really hope, hindi lang naman po sa akin ang gagaling lahat ng idea. I thank so much all of the participants who are here. Let's keep the discussion going and let's keep creating our content, our resources, and sharing with one another.
Correct. Thank you very much, Ma'am Noel. Maraming talaga salamat po. We hope that we can still be in touch with you. We can even you could even be the catalyst of sharing of resources among our teachers, parents also. Malay natin mga learners din natin maging future teachers na rin in the future. Okay, so thank you very much again, Teacher Noel Shirley Pabiton-Pansalin of Teacher the Philippines. Since we're closing our reading module today, maaari po ba tayo magbigay ng advice sa ating mga guro o sama na rin natin yung mga parents, isama na natin yung mga empowered learners natin. Ano ba ibig sabihin talaga natin ng pagkakaroon ng effective reading programs?
Ang dami ko na pong nasabi tungkol sa reading. Siguro po ang huling gusto ko na lang talaga sabihin, mahirap magturo ng pagbabasa at marami po tayong challenges, lalo na ngayon. Pero kapit mga guro, kapit mga magulang, tsaka kapit mga bata, dahil hindi naman kayo nag-iisa. Kagaya po nung nangyayari ngayon na ang daming nakikipag-usap, ang daming gusto matuto, ang daming tanong, meron pong exchange ng ideas. Dito po talaga nagsisimula yung mga magagandang changes na pwede natin magawa as a nation and as a community. So I hope the discussion will continue. And even as we end this series, let's keep it going talaga. Kapit tayo at let's connect with our co-teachers. Let's build a network together. And I guess I just want to thank everybody. So thank you to all the participants for all your ideas, your questions, lalo na po dun sa mga sumubaybay mula sa simula. Thank you to the hosts and all the whole team behind this webinar series for really making it a smooth and effective one. It has been an absolute honor for me to be here and to connect with all of you. And I hope that you can get something out of this, na meron po kayong masusubukan at meron po kayong ma-inspire po kayo na pwede pong gumawa kayo ng sarili ninyo. Parang ma-open up lang po yung idea ng learning to read para sa lahat.
Okay, thank you. So,
As reference, all the materials in this stream will be available for viewing here in the Globe Bridging Communities Facebook page, as well as DepED and NEAP Facebook pages. Also, please don't forget to answer our post-event survey. Importante po ang inyong mga komento at suggestion for us to know how to make our learning sessions here at Global Filipino Teachers Webinar Series more relevant and how we will be able to serve you better. Once again, this is Joanna Javier.
And of course, it's Sol Reyes na may pahabol na personal insight from one of our viewers. Gather new information fit for the new learning modality. Let the child practice. Open your mind to new practices. And be enthusiastic in engaging with your students and encourage learning every day. Diba tayo, Jo, ang dami rin nating naintindihan at mas naliwanagan tayo sa mga nangyari sa atin ngayon. So again, number one, thank you very much, Dr. Lenny Nilios, Teacher Noel, Globe, Teacher the Philippines, Habi, the entire production team, and most of all to you, our heroic teachers, for always doing your best no matter what. That concludes our session of our early language literacy module for the Global Filipino Teachers Webinar Series. We'll be seeing you again. Malay natin, next week ba ito sa susunod na mga linggo. But please, huwag niyo po kaming bibitawan, ha? Sama-sama po tayo hanggang sa huli. Okay? Kaya naman, please invite your fellow teachers to register and attend our sessions. Sagutan niyo po yung ating post-test o yung ating survey. Sana po ay makasama namin kayong muli. Maraming salamat at mabuhay ang mga gurong Pilipino.
Maraming salamat po.